Hi, this is Marek from Tryb Solo. Today I would like to show you a game called 1815 Scum of the Earth. It's the third installment of the epic historic battle system created by Tristan Hall. Thanks All or Nothing Productions for sending this game for review. And this is a two-player or solo card game where you play as either English or French, and you will fight the Battle of Waterloo. This is the third game in the series. The first one was about the Battle of Hastings, the second one was about Siege of Malta. Now we have Waterloo. The game is really well designed for solo players. You get a separate rulebook, and I know that Tristan Hall is really committed to solo community, and all his games are really well designed for solo gamers. Let me show you how this game plays, and then I will tell you what I think about this game in general and about this game in comparison to the previous games in this series. This is Scum of the Earth during the game. This is a solo game against AI foe, but the rules for the human player are the same in both multiplayer and solo game. You just play a little differently for the AI. And this is the battlefield. This is the battlefield area for player 1, and this is the battlefield area for player 2. Here are some elements that are only needed in solo play, like for example this resource dial. You will not use it when you play a two-player game. And you have basically 3 frontiers, and you have 3 rows on each battlefield. I'm saying rows because normally when you play against a human player, you will sit across each other by the table. And on your battlefield you will deploy different units, different characters, and prepare for the final Battle of Waterloo. Each player gets a deck of cards. You have to shuffle this deck, and in this deck you have different cards. You can have units, and the units, each unit card consists of costs. Then you have the might power, zeal power, might power, and health. It means it shows how much damage you have to deal to this card to destroy it. Each card has type of the units shown here. You have some action, and you have some flavor text that you can read to find out more about all the historical aspects of this game. So you have units. Sometimes you have events, and you will play these events on your turn, and they usually do a one-time effect. You have characters. You have, let me find attachments. Now I can't find one. Okay, here is an attachment that you will attach to a unit, and for example this attachment will give you will attach it to a frontier, and it gains might +1. So you have a lot of cards, and you will draw cards from this deck. You will draw 6 cards at the beginning of the game, and then each round you will draw 2 additional cards, and then you will play the cards. In order to play the cards, as I said before, you need to pay the cost, and you have to generate resources. Some cards, like for example this one, has this green symbol here, and it means that this card can generate 1 resource. And like in a lot of card games, if you want to use an action of a card, or if you want to use this card to generate resource, you will have to tire this card. It means that you have to turn it 90 degrees, and this card will be not available until the following round of the game. At the beginning of the round, you will untire all the tired cards on the whole battlefield. So if you want to play a card, you will have to generate resources either by tiring cards on your battlefield, or by discarding card. Each card that you discard from your hand will generate 1 resource. So if I, for example, would like to play this card, I can discard this card, and I can rotate this card to generate 2 resources. And the main goal of this game is to prepare your battlefield for the final Battle of Waterloo. You will not really attack each other a lot before it happens. This game is more about preparing your battlefield, about deploying units and giving attachments to units in order to have the most might and zeal when the final battle happens. Of course, there are some cards like artillery or range cards that you can use to shoot your opponent units, but basically everything that happens before the final Battle of Waterloo is like a preparation phase for the battle. There are also some objectives. They are, let me show you. If you put them in the correct order, you have a lot of objectives and you have to complete them until you will get to your last objective, which is the Battle of Waterloo. And for example, this one objectives get destroyed automatically at the end of the round, but all other objectives, they have health. You have to, you can say, deal damage to this objective, and they have the type of attribute that you need on your unit in order to complete this objective. For example, this one is zeal. So at the end of the round, you will count all the zeal. You will count the zeal value of all the units on your battlefield. Then you will subtract this value, and this is how much damage you will deal to this objective. Sometimes this is zeal, sometimes this is might. It all depends. There are some bonuses that you can get when after you complete this objective. And of course, there is this flavor text that will explain you everything that happened before the Battle of Waterloo and how the armies, got there. So both sides have these objectives. They need to complete them. The final battle will happen when both sides of the game will get to Battle of Waterloo. Then you will have to damage the frontiers, and the person that will destroy 2 frontiers will win the game. Each frontier has this health value. If one person gets to Waterloo before the other, a zeal battle will happen, so you can damage each frontier only by 1 health each round. But when both sides will get to Waterloo, you will use your might, you will use your army to destroy the frontiers. And of course, each side of this conflict has a leader. It's, for example, Napoleon for the French army. And if the leader gets destroyed before Waterloo, the army that lost the leader will also lose the game. So basically, each round, first you will draw cards. At the start of the game you will draw 6 cards. Then during the game you will draw 2 cards each round. Then there is the deployment phase, where you will be able to play cards, generate resources, use actions, and it's like one person is doing one thing, like deploying 1 card, then the second player can do the same, and it goes back and forth until both players pass. Then after that, there is the frontier phase. The frontier phase only happens when both sides are at the Battle of Waterloo, or at least one army gets there. Then you will be able to destroy, starting damaging the frontiers. And after that, there is this objective phase, where you will be able to complete this objective in order to get to Waterloo. So it's not that complicated. You will play cards, play event cards, unit cards, and attachments, and try to build your most powerful army before the Battle of Waterloo. As it goes for solo, you can of course play the game solo. You can choose either side for you and the other army for AI. This is a flowchart of AI turn. It may look complex, but it's really not. If you don't want to use this chart, you can just use this card. It's full turn summary. It tells you what AI is doing in different situations. It's really cool that in this game you will get a separate solo play rulebook that explains everything. It's not that complicated really. Basically AI is doing the same thing as you. AI will play cards from the deck of cards. AI doesn't have to generate resources, but AI will get resources from this dial. You have 6 difficulty levels, and on each level, each round you will rotate it, and by choosing specific difficulty level, it shows you how many resources Automa gets every turn. So how powerful cards Automa can play. Automa will also get resources from the cards that generate resources, but Automa is cheating a little, because AI doesn't have to rotate cards, it just plays cards every turn. And that's basically it. If the Automa's battlefield is full, Automa will replace the weaker unit with the more powerful units. It will also complete objectives, and it will try to either destroy your leader or destroy 2 frontiers to win the game. This is basically how you play Scum of the Earth. Let's go to the summary. 1815 Scum of the Earth plays really well, and this is not a surprise because I've played all the previous games. You can also find videos about the previous games on my YouTube channel. This game is very similar in terms of gameplay. I mean, the basic rules are the same. Of course, there are some additions here and some changes because you have different armies, different historical period, and there are some new things and some changes, but the overall gameplay is the same. You have this battlefield, you will deploy different units on the battlefield, play event cards, attachments, and you will try to prepare for the final Battle of Waterloo. If you played a lot of card games, especially like duel games where you play against one other player, this one is a little different because this is not really a game where you fight all the time with each other, because the main idea here is that you need to prepare for the Battle of Waterloo. So by deploying different units, giving the attachments to these units, playing some event cards, you prepare your army in order to win the final battle. Of course, you can destroy some enemy units before it happens, because some units, they have actions that allow you to destroy opposing infantry or opposing units in your opponent's army. But basically you try to prepare for Battle of Waterloo. You have this objective that you need to complete, and you try to create the best army that you can. And this is like a really unique and different approach, because a lot of card games I played, like Hero Realms, Star Realms, you basically play a card, you attack the other player, you destroy other player's units, the other player fights back, and you have an action all the time. And here is more about the preparation and then about the final battle. So this is really cool. I also like the idea that you can combine all the armies from the previous games. Of course, it will not make any sense in terms of historical accuracy, because you can fight with knights from Hastings and against, for example, Napoleon, but it's fun. If you have the previous games, you always had two armies in each box. So now with this 1815 you have 6 armies in total, 7 if you buy the expansion with Prussian army for this game. I don't have it, so I cannot tell you more about it, but there is a small expansion with a separate deck of cards that you can add to this game, and you can play as a Prussian army. So if you combine all the games together, you have 6 or 7, depending which expansion you have, 7 armies, and you can really mix different armies and play against each other. It's really cool and quite unique. There's also an expansion for this game with different weather effects, like each round, I think, or every few rounds you play a new weather card, and the card changes the some rules on the battlefield. So it's really fun. As for this game, I think it's the most polished and you can say advanced game in this whole series, especially when you play solo, because you have an AI here, Automa, that you play against. You can use AI to play either sides of this conflict, and the AI does similar things to you: play cards, deploys units, builds the battlefield area and prepares for the final battle. But in the previous games, Automa starts really slowly, usually. Maybe if you play on the higher difficulty levels, Automa got more resources at the start of the game, but basically Automa starts quite slowly. And in the previous games you had not as many low-cost cards in both decks, so it was a little predictable at the beginning of the game, because usually when you played previous games in the series, the first few rounds Automa usually played the same cards every time you played this game. And now you have much more zero-cost cards and one-cost cards, so you are not really sure what card Automa will play and what card Automa will draw from the deck. So it's less predictable and, in my opinion, more fun. Of course, in general, the AI is more predictable than the human player, because the way Automa works is that it gets a specific number of resources every turn and play cards up to the number of resources it generated. And human players don't play that way, because as a human player you have your hand of cards and you can discard the cards from your hand to generate resources. So if you want, you can play a very expensive card in the first round of the game if you want to. Automa doesn't play that way, but still in this part of this series, Automa is, I think, less predictable, and it's more fun to play against the automated opponent. The rules are not really complicated, both for multiplayer and for solo. Okay, for solo you have the separate rulebook that you have to learn, but Automa doesn't work in a very complicated way, so it's not a problem. The game is quite fast. It says 30 to 40 minutes per game. I think if you play multiplayer game, it's probably the time is right, because you don't have to operate the Automa. You just play a card, your opponent plays the card, and you defeat the objectives, and then there is the final battle. It's really cool installment in the series. If you haven't played any of the how is it called, historic epic battle system series, I think this one is a great one to start with, because it has the most advanced rules. You have nice combos between different units on the battlefield, and it adds some more mechanism that were not available in the previous game. So this one is, I think, the best one to start. And if you played the previous games in the series and you like them, you will also like this one, because it's not that different from the previous games. Beautiful artwork. This is another thing I want to mention. In all Tristan Hall games, the artwork is fantastic, and it's the same here. All the units, the art on the cards is really fantastic. I think if you are a history freak, you will be very happy. You have a lot of flavor text on each card, and you can, even if you're not into history, you can learn a lot about Battle of Waterloo by reading the text on the flavor text on all these cards. So it's really cool game. Another cool game from Tristan. Thank you for watching. Click the like button if you like this video, subscribe to my channel, visit me on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. You will find all the links in the description of the video, and see you next time. Bye bye.